is it, the big one. It's not the last of the Zelda marathon, but this is the one that a lot of you were anticipating the most. The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. Okay, first off, is it Ocarina or Ocarina? I hear people pronouncing it differently all the goddamn time. How is it pronounced? The Nintendo 64 was the console where numerous Nintendo franchises made their three-dimensional debut. In 1996, we had Super Mario 64, and in 1998, it was the Zelda franchise's turn. I've mentioned in earlier reviews that I wouldn't come to own an N64 until 2003, but that didn't mean I wasn't aware of the sheer amount of hype this game received upon release. I recall the commercials, magazine articles, I think I even came across the Nintendo Power issue focused entirely on Ocarina of Time. Willest thou flee or fight? Willest thou finish or die trying? And in the end, willest thou get the girl or play like one? Ooh, ouch. Taunting and misogyny in the Nintendo commercial. I'm guessing that one didn't last very long in the air. Ocarina of Time is often considered to be the most critically acclaimed game of all time. Even to this day, people from all across the internet describe how much of an impact the game left on not only the Zelda community, but video gaming in general. I mean, this game was huge! There was nothing else like it. It's the franchise's first jump into the 3D world, so let's just see how well it made the transition. Like the previous reviews in the earlier console titles, I'll be playing off the Virtual Console to provide better image quality for this review, though I would still recommend playing the game on an actual N64. More on that later. In the late 90s, if people weren't talking about Final Fantasy VII, they were most likely talking about Ocarina of Time. I was interested. My mindset back in the day was to always try out the game everybody couldn't shut the fuck up about. Well, I wouldn't come to play Ocarina of Time until I first nabbed my GameCube nearly 10 years ago. In 2003, if you were subscribed to Nintendo Power or purchased a newly released GameCube, you would get the Legend of Zelda Collector's Edition disc, which came with the first Zelda game, Zelda 2, Ocarina of Time, and Majora's Mask, all in one neat little package. My GameCube was a used one, however, and I wasn't subscribed to Nintendo Power at the time, so I ended up borrowing my uncle's copy. This is how I first played and beat Ocarina of Time. I can't exactly recall how long it took me to beat the game on my first run, but I do remember spending many weekends on it, much to the dismay of my younger brother Mark, who I shared a room with at the time. When you break it down, Ocarina of Time from a simplified viewpoint continues to follow the standards that were established in Zelda 1 and approved upon in A Link to the Past. The biggest change Ocarina of Time introduces is the shift to 3D, so a majority of this review will be focused on how well the established formula works in the third dimension and what was changed to accommodate the shift. Before we do any of that, however, we have a story to summarize. In an endless forest lies a young boy who lives among the Kokiri, a race of beings that resemble children. The guardian of the forest, known as the Great Deku Tree, senses that evil is afoot and instructs a fairy by the name of Navi to tag along with the young boy, who is destined for greater things. The young boy is none other than Link, in one of his youngest incarnations. The kid's barely 9 years old in this game, boy is he in for some shit. In no time, Link and Navi become acquainted and meet up with the Deku Tree, who later reveals that he's slowly dying from a curse that was placed on him. He tasks Link with removing the curse inside his body, which Link does so swiftly, but in the end, the Deku Tree informs Link that he was doomed from the start. I guess the Great Deku Tree is not a fan of having spiders and gomas inside his body before dying. The Deku Tree tells Link the story of the three goddesses, Din, Nehru, and Furore, the beings responsible for the creation of Hyrule, and the Holy Triangles themselves, the Triforce. The person responsible for placing the death curse in the Deku Tree was a man by the name of Ganondorf, who wishes to seek out the Triforce to gain ultimate power and rule the world. The Deku Tree bestows Link with the Kokiri Emerald, one of the three spiritual stones needed to gain access to the Sacred Realm, where the Triforce is supposedly held. Remember the Golden Land from A Link to the Past? Well, now it's known as the Sacred Realm. Right before his death, the Deku Tree sets Link off to Hyrule Castle to meet Princess Zelda, who senses the exact same evil that the Deku Tree noticed. To ensure Ganondorf doesn't obtain the Triforce, Zelda tells Link that he'll need to gather the two other spiritual stones located in Hyrule to prevent Ganondorf from entering the Temple of Time, which is the gateway connecting the land of Hyrule to the Sacred Realm. He'll also need to utilize the prized possession of the Hyrule Kingdom, the Ocarina of Time, which is the key needed to open the door that leads to the Triforce. You may have noticed that the hunt for the spiritual stones sounds remarkably similar to the pendant collecting Link did in A Link to the Past. While it's true that both quests are similar in concept, the purpose for collecting the items are a bit different. In A Link to the Past, Link needed to collect the pendants to obtain the Master Sword to beat Jerry, and in this game, we're just collecting the spiritual stones to keep Ganondorf away from the Triforce in the Sacred Realm. Saying it out loud makes me realize, yeah, it's pretty much the same thing. With the mission clear in his head, Link begins his quest for the other spiritual stones. This leads him both to the Goron City in Death Mountain, home of the rock-eaten Gorons, and Zora's Fountain in the Zora Domain, home of the Zoras. Wow, these guys sure have gotten a lot prettier during the 3D transition. How the hell do you go from this to this? Are they two separate races that are both known as Zoras? Well, I guess you can call the King of Zoras a fusion between the two designs, but I'm getting off topic here. Collecting the other 2 spiritual stones requires Link to help the Gorons destroy a huge Dodongo that's eaten up all the food, and rescuing the Princess of Zora's, Ruto, from the insides of a large fish known as Jabu Jabu. The story doesn't really evolve or go anywhere as you collect the stones. I mean, you meet Darunia, the leader of the Gorons, who's thankful for Link helping out his fellow people, but it really doesn't go anywhere past that. Then you have Princess Ruto, who besides being your typical rebellious princess, is just a means to collect the last spiritual stone. Things don't begin picking up again until you head back to Hyrule Castle after collecting the final stone. Zelda and her guardian Impa are seen running away from the castle on horseback, with Ganondorf himself hot on their trail. During the escape, Zelda tosses Link the Ocarina of Time itself to keep it away from the clutches of Ganondorf. With Ganondorf far away from Hyrule Castle, Link takes his time to enter the Temple of Time and, along with the power of the spiritual stones, uses the Ocarina to open up the Door of Time, revealing the Master Sword, the blade that gets shit done. Link approaches the sword and pulls it out of the pedestal, where shit suddenly starts to go down. It's revealed that Ganondorf was secretly following Link the entire time, and that pulling out the Master Sword opened up the path to the Sacred Realm itself. To make matters worse, pulling out the Master Sword also caused Link to go into a magically induced coma, allowing Ganondorf to take the Triforce with no resistance.
Womp womp.
Following a bright flash, Link is awakened by the Sage of Light, Raoult, telling Link that the reason why he was put to sleep was because he was not old enough to become the hero of time just yet. As a result, 7 years has passed and Link has now become a young adult, complete with magically produced gauntlets, tights, and earrings. In a hefty information dump, Raoult explains to Link that since no one was able to stop Ganondorf from entering the Sacred Realm and taking the Triforce, the man has become the king of evil and has transformed the Kingdom of Hyrule into a malicious wasteland. And by that, I mean the marketplace inside the Hyrule Castle area. The Hyrule Fields look completely untouched, and Kakariko Village looks perfectly fine as well. I guess it hasn't been too bad for these people, but maybe I'm overlooking some details. Now that Link is old enough to wield the Master Sword and become the hero of time, Raoult instructs Link to rescue the other 5 sages scattered across Hyrule, where they can use their combined forces to stop Ganondorf's reign of terror over this desolate marketplace. Oh, and the rest of the world too. Link is sent back to the Temple of Time, where he encounters a mysterious figure who goes by the name of Sheik, who represents the last of the Sheikahs, who could be summed up as ninjas that protect the royal family of Hyrule.
This series is now rocking ninjas, and you know what? I'm perfectly fine with that. I mean, why the hell not? Ninjas are cool.
Sheik tells Link something every Zelda aficionado would have guessed at this point. The remaining 5 sages are located in 5 different temples, one in the forest, one in the mountains, one in a large lake, one inside a graveyard, and one in the desert.
Now here's the thing. From this point on, the story just sort of pauses, if I can describe it any other way. You have an objective, Ganondorf's the king of evil and all that, but until you rescue the final sage, the story doesn't really go anywhere.
This is pretty much how every temple is structured. You approach the temple area, Sheik teaches you a song that allows you to conveniently warp there in case you ever want to go back, you conquer the dungeon, and then the sage thanks you for rescuing them. It's only when you're ready to take on Ganondorf himself is when the overarching story continues to unfold. There's a bit of small talk between Link and each of the sages, but that's all it is, small talk. They go out of their way to describe the dangers that'll come if Link doesn't help them complete the dungeon, but seeing as we already know that the world is in utter peril with Ganondorf in control, it comes off as redundant.
I know the world will be a total disaster if I don't do anything. That's why I'm here in the first place, to stop the world from becoming even shittier.
Then there's Sheik, a ninja who doesn't do anything besides teach us songs and spends a majority of the game off screen. When you're about to enter the Shadow Temple, you think something's gonna happen that'll cause Link and Sheik to team up, but all that happens is a hilariously one-sided battle with something they can't even see. After that, Sheik just goes away. I guess they didn't want to have Link out of the focus for anyone else, which is quite the shame too, because Link himself is an absolute piece of wood. And this game really makes that apparent. He doesn't speak, react to much, or seem to have any emotional connection with anybody in this game. If Miyamoto wanted Link to represent the player in this game, well, I'm not seeing it. For myself anyway. I can't relate to this guy at all. When the 5 other sages are rescued, Link heads back to the Temple of Time to meet with Sheik, who is then revealed to be Princess Zelda herself.
Come on, don't tell me that's the reason why Sheik barely does anything in this story. This could have been a perfect opportunity to show that Princess Zelda is more than just a damsel in distress. I mean, I already like her more than Princess Peach, so why not inject a little more badass into her?
Princess Zelda explains that when Ganondorf obtained the Triforce in the Sacred Realm, he only received a part of it, the Triforce of Power. The other 2 Triforce segments, Wisdom and Courage, reside in Zelda and Link respectively. Zelda gives Link the power of the light arrows to help defeat Ganondorf, and as soon as she does so, she's magically captured by Ganondorf. Shouldn't have removed your ninja disguise there, Zelda. Why did she remove it in the first place? What is she hiding from Ganondorf all this time? So we pretty much know how it works from here. Link travels to Ganondorf's castle and faces off with the evil king for the climactic final battle.
Well, the first part of the battle isn't really climactic at all, it's just another game of energy tennis. You can even use your empty bottles instead of your sword, effectively sapping away any sort of seriousness this battle holds. But oh man, when Ganondorf is down for the count, he uses the Triforce of Power to transform into his final form, Ganon, in what I think is the most badass and downright threatening looking Ganon I've ever seen. This is what you'd call a climactic final boss battle. The music is ominous, the atmosphere adds the right sense of dread, and well, come on, look at that! To this day, it's my favorite Ganon fight out of every Ganon fight I've experienced in the series. At this point, Zelda even lends some assistance. It's not much, but it's enough to give Link enough time to deal the final blows to Ganon, complete with a stab to the fucking head. Zelda and the other 6 sages combine their powers together and seal the defeated Ganondorf into the Sacred Realm, saving Hyrule from further tyranny. With the threat of Ganondorf gone, Zelda uses the Ocarina of Time to send Link back to the past to regain his lost childhood. After that, everyone pretty much just goes nuts and celebrates the defeat of Ganondorf. Link places the Master Sword back in its pedestal and Navi just kind of leaves. She just leaves. I thought she and Link were pretty good friends at this point, what the fuck? The very last scene is young Link and the young Princess Zelda meeting once again in the garden where they initially met. Sup, yo. Now, it's not really suggested in the story, but a lot of people believe that young Link informs young Zelda of what Ganondorf has planned for the Kingdom of Hyrule, and with that knowledge, Ganondorf can be arrested before having a chance to do anything, ensuring a bright future. Now, I'm not saying that's what happens, it's just what people believe, and you know what? I agree, it kind of makes sense, so I'm not going to argue with it. I know I spent a considerably longer time here summarizing the story than any other Zelda game at this point, but when you look back at it, it's really no more complicated or involved than, say, A Link to the Past. There's a lot more flavor text for sure, and the game does explain how the Triforce was created as well as Hyrule in general, but that doesn't really mean anything in the grand scheme of things. In the end, Ganondorf wants to rule the world and you need to stop him. That's what the total story amounts to. It gets the job done, but even with the jump to 3D, it doesn't get any more complicated than that. But what about the gameplay? Well, as I said earlier, Ocarina of Time follows the refined formula that was established in A Link to the Past and simply shifts it into 3D. Link can attack with his sword with the B button and can perform context-sensitive actions with the A button, such as lifting objects, pushing or pulling things, or opening doors. Context-sensitive actions. If Link's Awakening had that, I think I would have cut it a little more slack. Well, if the power bracelet was at least context-sensitive. Because of the 3D shift, the combat mechanics had to be adjusted along with it. Striking enemies with the sword is still an easy thing to do, and you can still perform the spin attack by holding the attack button down, but by pressing the Z button on the controller, Link can lock onto whatever Navi directs him to. With this, Link can easily keep track of enemies to effectively damage them or know when to properly guard against attacks with his shield, which he can use by pressing the right shoulder button. When Link's locked onto something or holding down the Z button in general, he can perform fast-moving side jumps and dodge rolls to avoid incoming attacks. He can also perform a jumping slash for a lot of damage. It's not the most accurate attack, but it is remarkably satisfying to connect with. In A Link to the Past, Link could equip a secondary item to use whenever he wanted to with the Y button. Here, Link has a total of 3, count 'em, 3 item buttons to equip items from your inventory. So not only can you utilize items such as the slingshot or boomerang with one button, but by pressing the corresponding arrow button, you can also use that bottle of milk you have on standby or that wooden stick that makes for an effective beating weapon. This seriously kicks ass. In addition to the sword and shield having their own separate buttons, having 3 item buttons makes battles and obstacles more comfortable to confront, and it doesn't break the pace in the slightest. That's how you do it. The world of Hyrule, unsurprisingly, was given a major overhaul in terms of both scale and activity. There's a lot to do in this place. Completing the game with little to no side quests involved will probably take you about 6 to 7 hours. If you plan on going for heart pieces or completing specific tasks to nab item expansions or going extremely out of your way to grab those oh-so lovely gold Skulltula tokens, then expect your total game time to double, possibly triple depending on your skill. Completing a side quest shouldn't take too much time, but there are a few in this game that can possibly drive you nuts if you don't know what you're doing, like playing the fishing minigame to get the heart piece, or the sequence of item trading needed to get the best sword in the game, the Big Goron sword. Christ, I barely made that deadline. That's what happens when you don't utilize the power of leaf technology, I guess. Usually I don't mind going out of my way to completely get everything in the game. I did it in Zelda 1, Zelda 3, and Link's Awakening, but here it's much more time consuming, not only because of the amount of things you can do, but the process of traveling across Hyrule Field to get to the side quests in the first place. Link may be a walking arsenal, but he is certainly not the fastest thing alive, and with no Pegasus boost to rely on from Zelda 3 or Link's Awakening, Link won't be kicking up dust anytime soon. Hyrule Field is very big and very spacious. It's filled with a lot of landmarks, but between these locations lies nothing but empty fields with the occasional pea hat. I frequently find myself side jumping all over the place because it's overall much faster than Link's running speed. It's like using the backdash in Symphony of the Night to get to places faster. Of course it looks fucking goofy, but come on, this isn't exactly speedy here. Later on in the game, you can easily warp to different places with the songs that Sheik teaches you, and you even get a horse that goes by the name of Epona to dash across the fields with. But this all happens in the second half of the game. For the first half, you gotta travel all across Hyrule Field on foot, especially if you want to get some side quests done. No, Kaepora Gaebora, I don't want to hear all of that banter again. This owl will occasionally interrupt your progress when you reach an area for the first time, and while it's helpful for the first time player, you'll try everything in your power to avoid making eye contact with this fucking bird on your second and third playthrough. God damn it, no! Go away, Kaepora Gaebora! Go away! Go away!
You're not going away, are you?
Fucking real.
Hyrule itself may be a chore to travel through, but if I can compliment it for one thing, it's its atmosphere. Yeah, obviously the graphics have gotten a third-dimensional boost, but this game also does a good job in packing ambience. The time of the day actually shifts when you're traveling in Hyrule Field, leading to some potentially beautiful scenery during your journey. With the combination of good sound design and ambient musical pieces, Ocarina of Time does a fairly decent job of making the game's world feel alive. I only wish the music was a bit more catchy. It works, but I can't exactly hum any of it. The temples have also benefited from this upgrade, and you can tell this as early as the first dungeon inside the Great Deku Tree. Exploring these places, especially on your first time, can be an unnerving experience, because you're never exactly sure what waits on the other side or around the corner. Now, it's nothing like anything you would encounter in a survival horror type of game, but even with a dungeon map and compass to help lead the way, you'll still need to expect the unexpected, whatever the hell that means. Personally, from an experience viewpoint, I don't find the temples in this game to be that challenging. I do, however, find a number of them to be quite long. I'm not sure whether or not it's because of the 3D shift or people complaining that the dungeons just weren't long enough in the previous games, where there are some dungeons in this game that just never seem to end. Yes, I'm talking about the goddamn Water Temple, which for years has been the cause of despair for many players. You know what? The Forest Temple bugs me too. I can never remember the level design of this place, and I always end up spending close to an hour completing this temple. It's a little too bleak for my taste. The reason why the Water Temple gets so much shit from a lot of people that have played this game is not just because of the constant need to raise or lower the water levels to get to new locations, but the need to constantly pause the game and switch to the iron boost to walk underwater. You know what really aggravates me about this temple though? You know when you're trying to solve a puzzle and you spend so long looking for the solution, and then when you finally find it, you slap yourself in the forehead for not realizing it earlier? This place is chock full of that kind of shit, and it pisses me off. I just can't for the life of me remember the fastest method of completing this place. And why can't I use nothing but my hookshot underwater? Or better yet, why can't I just fucking swim? Mario can do it, I'm sure Link can do it too. Other temples in the game, such as the Fire Temple, Shadow Temple, and Spirit Temple, are pretty fun to travel in, as I think they not only have better designed chambers, but also have a better balance in puzzle solving and combat, and don't require too much backtracking to reach the end of the temple to fight the boss. I'm not sure whether I'm the minority or the majority here, but I find a lot of these bosses to be total cakewalks. I'm the type that always makes sure he has a backup fairy in his bottle in case I lose too many hearts, or a spare red or blue potion to recharge my life bar. But even with those precautions, I don't find myself losing too much health when fighting these guys. They're bigger and meaner than they've ever been so far, but beating them is a no-brainer. I think the tips Navi can offer you when you locked onto an enemy or boss helps in the matter too. Poor Navi. She gets so much shit for being that one fairy companion that doesn't know when to shut the fuck up, but really, the only time I find her annoying is when she's telling me to go to my next destination, when I'm already on my way to the next destination. Other than that, she's pretty cool, if a little loud. You wanna know what's really annoying though? Trying to play Ocarina songs with a fucking analog stick. If you're gonna play the original release of this game, I seriously recommend playing the original cartridge on an original N64 with the original controller. With the Ocarina, you need to input the correct sequence of notes to play the specific songs with the arrow buttons to either discover hidden areas, treasures, or progress with the dungeon or plot. In the GameCube or Virtual Console re-releases, the arrow buttons are mapped to the right analog stick, and it's extremely sensitive to the touch. It's very easy to accidentally mess up a string of notes, and every time that happens, I die a little inside. No other item in the game, though, requires this recommendation. Link's arsenal is back, and it's packing the same punch it did in A Link to the Past. All the staples are here, and we even get some new toys to play with, such as fire arrows or spells you can obtain from the Great Fairies, like Din's Fire or Fiora's Wind, which really helps when you want to set up a warp point in a dungeon to reduce backtracking. My only real complaint is the limited use of some of the items. Take the Megaton Hammer for example, which you get in the Fire Temple. Like many treasures you discover inside a particular dungeon, it's needed to complete the rest of the dungeon itself. After that, it's really not that helpful anymore. This was an issue that sort of persisted throughout the series in general, but I couldn't help but notice it the most here. Look at Link utilize the golden gauntlets to lift up this massive piece of rock just to get to the next area of the castle. Wouldn't it be great if we could put that added strength to, say, a super attack or something? Well, that's not the case, regrettably, but it's still rather cool to look at.
With everything I've talked about so far, it sounds like I enjoyed this game just as much as A Link to the Past. Well, yes and no.
While true, Ocarina of Time does a damn fine job taking everything from A Link to the Past and incorporating it into the 3D world, playing Ocarina of Time takes a lot more out of me than A Link to the Past. Ocarina of Time is a much bigger game, and while that may be a positive point to bring up for some, for me, it's a flaw. What may take me an hour to accomplish in A Link to the Past may take me several hours to do in Ocarina of Time. Collecting heart pieces, traveling from one location to another, it just seems much more comfortable to do in A Link to the Past. Perhaps it's not fair to compare the two. One's a 2D adventure game while the other's a 3D adventure game. My point is, I have to be in a certain mood to play something like Ocarina of Time. I gotta convince myself that I'm going to be playing this for some time. I don't have this mindset with A Link to the Past, I just pick it up and play it. Could it be nostalgia? I don't know. But I can count the total amount of times I've played and fully completed Ocarina of Time with one hand. But if you haven't played Ocarina of Time at this point, let me show you a bit of Ocarina of Time 3D, the 2011 re-release of Ocarina of Time for the Nintendo 3DS. Yes, I finally got a 3DS capturing device, and I thank the countless amount of you for pointing me in the direction of obtaining one. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of use out of this baby. Anyway, structurally, it's the exact same game. Everything that made the original N64 title The Legend Has Become is here and accounted for. Graphically speaking, it's much better. Everything was recreated from the ground up, so not only do we have higher quality models, textures, and atmosphere, but the frame rate was also increased from 20 to 30 frames per second, leading to much smoother animations. The text speeches are also substantially faster, so you can skip all that expository banter the OWL gives you very quickly. Everything about this port just seems faster, and I love it more because of it. I still got a side jump everywhere as young Link though. Pegasus Boots, where'd you go? Another nifty change was to the inventory system. The Ocarina now has its own button, so you no longer have to assign it to one of the item buttons to use it, and to top it off, there's an extra item button, giving Link a total of 4 buttons to place items on. Oh my, that's... wow. Using the touchscreen to select items to use or play notes on the Ocarina feels completely natural, and it beats using an analog stick any day. Aiming with items like the bow and arrow or slingshot is easier than ever as well, because you can now use the 3DS gyroscope to tilt the camera to where you want to aim. You can even use it to control the camera while locked onto something. Unless you're a real stickler for playing a console game on a big TV, this is the version of Ocarina of Time you should be playing if you haven't played the game yet. It's without a doubt the definitive version of it. I recommend playing it on a 3DS XL. The bigger screen really brings out the enhanced graphics.
If any of you are wondering if I'm going to be talking about Master Quest, Ocarina of Time's equivalent to hard mode, then no, I won't be. Originally, it was something you could only experience if you had the collector's edition I talked about earlier, but the 3DS version also has it, but you had to beat the main game first to unlock it. Just to summarize, the dungeons are completely redesigned to be more difficult, and on the 3DS version, the game is completely flipped. I don't know how flipping a game adds any challenge, but from what I hear, it really is a hard version of the game, but I already spent enough time just recording footage for the original version of the game. Will I ever get to it? I don't know. That's not a yes or no, I'm just not sure at this point. So that was The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, what many consider to be one of the best video games of all time, the magnum opus for the Zelda franchise in general. I'm sorry, I just don't see it. It's a well-crafted game, it really is, but this is not something I could recommend to everyone. I think the same could be applied to A Link to the Past, but to me, A Link to the Past is definitely more accessible and straightforward. Ocarina of Time requires a lot from the player, and unless you're into this genre to begin with, it may not hold you over for very long, especially if you're the impatient type. It's aged remarkably well, and I'm glad I can say that, because this is definitely where you want to start when you want to begin experiencing 3D Zelda titles. While I personally don't agree that it's the best game ever made, or the best Zelda game period, it is a game that deserved all the recognition and praise it received in 1998. It made the jump to 3D perfectly without messing up the overall formula, and that's not an easy thing to do. There were tons of franchises that bit the dust or degraded in quality upon making the 3D shift. What Ocarina of Time accomplished is just, well, legendary. Just one more game left to go before we finish off the Zelda Marathon, ladies and gentlemen. The final game in the lineup is another N64 title, so I'll see you guys next time with The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. The clock is ticking, so I gotta get to work. See you guys next time.